to my very first ever live on HAPS TV. I'm MARYANN, and I'm a broadcast journalist in Nigeria, and I'm from Nigeria, and reaching you live from Lagos in Nigeria. Okay, and this is Conversations with MARYANN. We are going to be looking at the top 3 big stories from Nigeria, and I'm very excited because for the next 30 minutes, I have a very interesting personality who's going to be analyzing these stories with me. He is actually reaching us live from River State, still in Nigeria. Kofi Battels is a broadcast journalist and a very good friend of mine. I've worked with him for years, and I'm so excited and delighted to be having this. You know, Kofi, I've never really interviewed you, have I? You know, we always do the shows together. I've never really interviewed you.
Yeah. I don't know if I can call it an interview because, I feel like we're just doing stuff together.
We're just having banter. We're just analyzing the news together, right? But it's never you versus, it's never you on the other side. We're always on the same side, you know. But this is interesting. So great to have you join us. So I see Jason Carter. Hi, Jason. Matt Goldman, thank you for joining us. All right, so let's go straight into the big stories for today. One of the biggest stories coming out from Nigeria is water resources. There's been a confusion over the bill for water resources on the floor of the National Assembly. Apparently, members of the House of Representatives are disagreeing over the hearing. Some are saying, look, we already had a hearing in the past administration. Why are we having another hearing in 2020? We should just go ahead and pass the bill. A lot of people don't necessarily understand what the water resources bill is about. There are people who have, theories that this is another agenda from the north, to take over or land grab, in some parts of the south and the southeast. That's the first story we're going to be looking at this evening. But before then, let me just run through a couple of stories. We might not have time to look at all of them, but there's another big story. Recently, the federal government has somewhat decided that the prices of fuel, electricity, tariff, everything has gone up. And a lot of Nigerians do not agree with this. Nigerians are saying life is already hard and difficult as it is. We're having to, scrape the bottoms of our pots, coupled with COVID-19 and, the job cuts, pay cuts. Why do we have to still pay, so much? So that's like the biggest story, because as we speak, there have been protests in some parts of the country because of these hikes. And the most interesting one is that the Nigerian Labour Congress, the trade union congress in Nigeria, they're all planning a strike because of these tariff hikes and, fuel hikes. So that's like the biggest story coming out from Nigeria. And of course, if you follow stories coming out from Nigeria, you know that insecurity is a big issue. Unfortunately, it's continuously been a front burner issue. And as at today, a forum called the Arewa Forum has called for the sack of service chiefs. And Kofi, I'm sure that this is not news to you, because there's been several calls for service chiefs in Nigeria to be sacked, and it looks like it normally falls on deaf ears. It's like the president doesn't care about these things. But let's start with that story, Kofi. Yes. There have been several calls from 2018 to 2019, and we're in 2020, and it seems like it's all falling on deaf ears. Why do you think it's taking Mr. President so long to realize that the problem is not necessarily just the fact that, we do not have enough soldiers or men on the ground, but maybe the tactics or maybe the strategies are a bit flawed?
Thank you very much, MARYANN, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. Insecurity is a big issue in Nigeria as we speak, especially in the northeastern part of the country, where the Boko Haram insurgency has been on for some time. As a matter of fact, the president came to power partly because Nigerians were dissatisfied with the handling of the security situation in the northeast by the former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. MARYANN, if you remember, the 2015 elections that held when Dr. Goodluck Jonathan was president were shifted backwards because the president claimed that it was unsafe to have the elections at the time because of the Boko Haram insurgency. If you remember, I think we were on air at that time, and what he said was that it won't be safe for Nigerians to vote. But some observers and political commentators say that he was trying to buy time because between the time of the within the time of the postponement of the elections, where the government said they were trying to make sure that they made the country safer for elections, there was an onslaught, a massive onslaught against Boko Haram by the Jonathan administration. Because they knew that Nigerians were very particular about that issue and it was going to affect voting. And they launched this onslaught against Boko Haram, with the president himself going to the northeast wearing a military camouflage, a civilian president for that matter. So that underscores the importance of the security situation in Nigeria and the role that the insecurity in the northeastern part of Nigeria played in determining who won the election. So now Nigerians voted. Out went Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, and in came President Muhammadu Buhari, who, during his inauguration speech,
let me just butt in there, Kofi. I'm sorry to speak over you. Can you hear me?
Process. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me just butt in. I just want to put it out
loud
there
and
that
clear, loud and clear.
Yeah, the government of Buhari, the Buhari-led administration, as we speak, ran on the heels of the fact that there were flaws in the Jonathan government in the ways that they handled the issue of insecurity, especially Boko Haram in the northeast. But then down the line, in fact, 2 administrations down the line, we're still or deliberating or debating on the same issues that we accused the Jonathan administration of. I remember that we still have the NSA boss in custody for looting funds that were meant to buy heavy weapons and artillery to fight insecurity. We still have those accusations. In 2 months, 300 plus soldiers have applied to resign from the army because they feel they have not been taken care of, they're not being listened to, they don't have enough ammunition to fight Boko Haram, and that the weapons that Boko Haram have are more sophisticated than what soldiers have. And there's so many other claims. So one would have thought that a Buhari-led administration who campaigned on the heels of the fact that they were going to give us a good economy, give us great security, and of course, make sure that there's high employment, which in fact, none of that has been done. I'm wondering, should we still be having this conversation in 2020? Kofi, are you still there? Hello, Kofi, are you still there? Oh, I think we lost him. Okay, we're going to try to get Kofi back into the conversation. Unfortunately, I think it was his Wi-Fi went off there, but we're going to try to get him back. But in case you're just joining us, you could just drop your comments. We'd like to hear from you. It's stories coming out from Nigeria. We're looking at insecurity right now. Of course, we're going to be talking about anger that's growing within Nigerians and labor unions as government is trying to defend petrol and the fuel hike. There are also electricity hikes. Kofi, welcome back. We lost you there for a second. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, Kofi, can you hear me? Wave if you can hear me. Can you hear me? I think his internet is really bad. Kofi, can you hear me? I think we will have to remove you.
Yeah, Mary.
I'm gonna try to get Kofi. Yeah, it's a bit tricky, but I'm gonna try to get you back in. Does that work now? Can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry, the internet can be a bit tricky out here, but hopefully Kofi can come back to the conversation. Now, for those who are watching us, the Water Resources Bill is like one of the biggest stories right now. There's confusion over that bill. There are people who, in fact, there's a lot of divide on the floor of the National Assembly about it. The Southern Middle Belt lawmakers are mobilizing against that bill. Okay, Kofi, can you hear me? We're back with you. Can you hear me? Hello, Kofi, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kofi? Internet is a bit tacky, but can you hear me? Oh dear. Um, I'll suggest that you move from where you are, Kofi, to someplace else. Maybe we can get clearer connection where you are. I'll try one more time. Hopefully we can get you back. Okay. Let's see if we can get him back. Well, let me just give you some background into some of the stories that we are looking at today. So the NLC, the TUC are planning to go on a strike against the fuel hike. Let me give you some background. Now, the Nigerian Labour Union Congress, TUC, are consulting the allies and relevant organs of labor towards embarking on a strike over the hike in premium motor spirits, which otherwise known as petrol. It's gone from 148 naira to 161 naira per litre. Now, the consultations for the strike was disclosed yesterday as the Senate hinted it might hold an emergency session to address the worries of Nigerians that have been raised by the strike. Kofi, are you back? Can we hear you? Hello? Kofi, can you hear me? If you can hear me, I think move away from where you are so you can get better connection where you are. Me, Kofi? Oh dear. Can you hear me? Oh, this is so bad. Anyway, apologies, Kofi. I'll let you go so you can move to a better place where you can find network, and then I'll call you back. But hello, Tolu. Thank you for joining. Paul Chimodo, thank you for following. So, guys, unfortunately, we have a little problem with our guest's internet. Hopefully, he can come back to us. But again, I want to move away from the hike in premium spirits. Let's talk about the other issues, okay? Let's look at the issue of insecurity, as Kofi and I were talking about. Now, the Arawa Forum is a professional forum in Nigeria. They are a group of people from a certain axis of Nigeria, and they're calling for the sack of the country's service chiefs following the spate of insecurity. For those who do not know what's happening in Nigeria, I'll just give you a breakdown. So we have Boko Haram, which is happening in the northeast, where that's terrorism. A lot of people know about Boko Haram because it's been on for almost 11 years. When I think 11 years ago, girls were abducted by Boko Haram. Years down the line, another set of girls were, abducted by Boko Haram. Now it has metamorphosed into all kinds of things. Now we have banditry, we have herders and farmers, cattle rustlers, killing each other. Down south in Kaduna, in southern Kaduna, there are killings, and also it's blamed on banditry. People get slaughtered in the middle of the night. And then you bring it all the way down to Plateau State, which is the middle belt. There's the same thing, banditry. So there's a lot of insecurity in Nigeria. Now you come down to the south, you have kidnappings, you have ritual killings, you have issues of pockets of violence, of, let's say communities, fighting around Nigeria. And it looks to Nigerians like the government or the federal government of the day is not necessarily doing anything about it. There have been cries from the different parts of the country. There have been accusations, pointing fingers at service chiefs, saying that they're incompetent. There was a time when the president decided that, service chiefs should move to where, these killings and insurgents were happening. But it didn't change anything. Now, it's been more than 5 years since Nigerians have asked that these service chiefs be sacked, but the president has not paid attention to it. And now we have soldiers. I mean, it's unheard of. Soldiers saying, we're going to voluntarily leave service because, our lives are on the line. And we really dedicated ourselves to saving and protecting our people, but we cannot do it under these conditions. There have been accusations of monies that have been voted for security and operations not getting to the people, family members of these officers and men, suffering even when their husbands or their sons are out there, doing their duty. So it's a potpourri of issues. I hope that we can I hope we can get Kofi Patel's back so we can continue with this conversation. Apologies, the internet can be a bit funny out here. Once in a while, we get this kind of problems. Let's see if we can get Kofi back in to continue the conversation with us. Ray Issa is saying, "Oh, that is very sad." Well, it is, unfortunately. This is what people are having to face in Nigeria. And there have been so many criticisms coming towards Mr. President saying, look, you're quick to go to other countries or speak up about issues of insecurity or fightings in other countries, but you're not necessarily doing the same in your country. Lots of people have said the president is playing the ostrich, he's been too silent. There have been hashtags saying, where is the president? Where is the president of Nigeria? You know, so many things have been happening. I mean, international agencies have also seen their workers or people who are volunteering for them get kidnapped and killed by Boko Haram. It's an ongoing situation, and one hopes that, you know, at some point we will get some respite or so there'll be a change of strategy, but that seems to all, you know, be to no avail. So Nigerians have somewhat gotten tired of begging and crying. Nigerians are now saying, you know what? Sack these service chiefs. We do not want to hear any more excuses. We want to see a change. Unfortunately, Kofi isn't coming back. I do not know why. Maybe his internet is totally cut off. It happens a lot. Hopefully he can come back and we can have this conversation. All right. I'm trying to get Kofi Patel's back to join us. Okay, TT here saying, yes, I have some Nigerian friends, and yes, so you get to hear about these things. Okay, Kofi, I think we have you back. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, loud and clear. I'm sorry about the network issues, Maryann.
Well, it's okay. These
part
things
of life
happen.
here.
Okay, so quickly, let's just run through, because we have very little time. Let's just run through this service chief situation. Do you ever think that the presidency is going to bolt on firing these service chiefs? Is there going to be a change of strategy? We see soldiers resigning voluntarily, which is something that you're not supposed to see in the army, you know. And we've also heard of stories of soldiers, you know, abandoning their colleagues on the field. There's also been videos of soldiers saying, we're dying, we're being killed by these people because we don't have, you know, the kind of ammunition that we need to fight these insurgents. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think basically that, you know, it is the president's prerogative to decide who he wants to be service chief, you know, chief of Air Force and Naval Staff and so on and so forth. However, he has not proven to be very responsive to the cries of people of the majority of Nigerians. As you rightly said, we've seen, you know, lots of Nigerians on social media condemn the resignation of a large number of soldiers, something that hasn't been seen before in the civilian era. You know, we've had soldiers to record videos complaining of lack of equipment, lack of uniforms, you know, being owed salaries. But this is the same military that has received billions of naira, that's hundreds of millions of dollars in investment. The former president, Dr. Jonathan, went for a loan to, you know, fund the fight against insurgency. You know, the current president government has also gone for a loan as well to fund the fight against Boko Haram. And so people
the question, Kofi, is where does the money go? Okay, Jinx, we asked the question at the same time.
So it is fueled
where does the money
speculation go? Yes. So where does money go? So it has fueled, you know, a speculation that there's corruption, you know, in the military circles. It's fueled speculation of systemic corruption in the military circles, because if we hear complaints of lack of, you know, equipment, lack of uniforms, lack of logistics, lack of gear, and soldiers have been owed their salaries and allowances, then it means that they are not receiving the monies for which the government has gone for loans for. And don't forget that
But
the former national security advisor in Goodluck Jonathan.
This makes the call by the Arawa and every other person who's made this call years before now very apt. If monies are being thrown into this fight against insecurity, and we are not showing that these monies are being put to good use, I think we do not, without a doubt, if the president really is an icon of fighting corruption as he portrays himself, he should have by now fired all these service chiefs, brought in other people who he thinks are competent enough to run these different, arms, security apparatuses. So I'm just wondering, will we ever be able to
indeed,
get some respite ever in this fight against insecurity?
Indeed, the expectation is that when you have some of these calls by Nigerians who from groups that you ordinarily normally wouldn't hear about, that you'd see some movement, at least a statement from the authorities. But unfortunately, when it comes to matters of security,
did we lose you again? Oh dear. Kofi, can you hear me? I think we lost him again. Can you hear me, Kofi?
Can
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. So it's not the norm for us to see that or hear that service chiefs are fired simply because groups are calling for them to be fired. When it comes to matters of the military, they're strictly out of the range of civilian groups and of the civil populace. It's strictly between the president and the army. So it's never been seen before that because of pressure from the populace, a president in Nigeria has ever fired any service chief, and I doubt that will happen in this.
I would have loved to push you further, but we don't have time. So let's quickly talk about the recent hikes in. Let's talk about the hikes in fuel and electricity. Now let's start with electricity because this is something that you and I have been harping on for years. We've never really had constant light in this country. It's been some sort of a mirage for us as Nigerians. To ever see light, it's a problem. But it's also really it's something you can't comprehend if a country like ours is giving light to other countries, but then we, the givers of light, are unable to have 24 hours of light. So I'm wondering, why is government giving us a hike in electricity when we barely see the electricity in itself? Kofi, can you hear me?
Okay, it seems invite me again.
Oh dear. But I can see you. Can you try again? Oh. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. Let's see if we can get you back in. We're so sorry. This is what we have to deal with. The internet can be a bit tricky sometimes. Okay, let's see if this works, Kofi, because we have 5 more minutes before we wrap this up. Let's hope the network will behave for the next 5 minutes. Let's hope and pray. But this happens. These things happen. Even when you're having a live broadcast on TV, these things happen. Your guest can disappear and appear again if you're doing it by Zoom or by Skype. Kofi, can you hear me now?
Once again, since apologies, Maryann, and network has today.
I wish you could move away from where you are. Maybe it could have been better. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Let's quickly just give me your thoughts on the hike in electricity and fuel prices. It goes again. We're so sorry this is happening, unfortunately. I think that internet at the end, at Kofi's end, is really, really bad tonight, and it's giving him some difficulty, and it's breaking our conversation, but this is part of every broadcast. I mean, it happens all the time. But let's just hope that he comes back and we can hear him. Kofi, unfortunately, we can't see you very well, but go ahead and give us your thoughts on the fuel hike and
yes,
the electricity hike.
I'm back.
Just go ahead. We don't have time.
Okay, once again, sincere apologies, Maryann, for that, for the poor network. Really unfortunate. So the finances of the Nigerian government are in a mess as we speak. That is the beginning of this. The finances of the Nigerian government are in a mess as we speak, and government cannot continue to subsidize or accommodate certain, subsidies in tariffs and in the bills that Nigerians pay for services and for what I call again for products. For instance, the Nigerian government was subsidizing a petrol, fuel, premium motor spirit for Nigerians for many years. And this current government had to end the subsidy regime because of the poor state of its finances. I mean, the government was spending billions of naira every single year, but billions of dollars every single year, year, pay for the difference between your costs and what Nigerians were paying. And so since the subsidy was taken away, Nigerians now have to pay the actual price of the petrol.
Kofi, when President Goodluck, former President Goodluck Jonathan was in power, he tried to do this because he knew that government could not do this for too long. But then the president at the time, can you hear me?
Fixes the price of petrol for those. The Petroleum Price Monitoring Committee that fixes the price. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, seems
I can hear you, but I was trying to ask you a question. But go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead. Kofi, your connection is really, really bad. It's very terrible. We can hardly hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you.
Hello, Maryann, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you, but we can't see you. Unfortunately, Kofi, we're going to have to let you go. It's pretty sad that we couldn't get you to comment on all of the issues, but I'm sure that we will have you back again. Maybe this time you'll have a great connection and we can have a smooth conversation about the top stories coming from Nigeria. I want to thank everyone. We have to keep to time. It was just 30 minutes that we had to talk about this. But thank you, Pablo, and everyone else who's joined us. Thank you, TT Racer. Thank you, Tolu. Thank you, Mark Goldman, and Jason Carter. Thank you all for being part of the conversation. This was my very first. Wasn't so great, but hey, these things happen. We'll be back next time, and we'll be bringing you conversations emanating from the biggest stories in